then we will go to closed session until 7:15 p.m. So roll call, please.
Director Daniels,
President.
Vice President LeHue,
I am here.
Director Jaffe,
By my computer.
Director
Here.
Christensen,
Here.
and President Lather.
Here.
Okay, and then we want to be able to take public comment on the
Right.
closed session first, correct?
Yes, please.
And is there public comment on the closed session?
Yes, we have one.
Okay, let's do that.
Steinbrenner? You can now unmute yourself.
Good evening. This is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Good evening. And I have listened to your conversation. I hope everybody who's had the shot is doing okay, and hope that you're feeling better. I would like to just speak to a couple of items in your closed session. Again, I want to just express my disappointment with the district. And that's all I can and will say, but that is what I do want to say regarding litigation. Regarding item 1.2 and the conference with real property negotiators for the 2505 Chanticleer Avenue easement, I am aware that the County Board of Supervisors has imposed eminent domain action on this, and I hope that it can be resolved, because that will be the best and most efficient use of everyone's time and resources. So I hope that the district is not being greedy, but that you do deserve a fair price, and hope that it does not have to go to eminent domain. That concludes my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we will now go to a closed session and return to open session at 7:15.
Hi, Greg.
Hey,
Yeah, you come in loud and you sound good.
nice. I wonder why it didn't work before. Sweet. Okay.
Okay, awesome.
And the video's there too?
Yep, your video's there.
Okay. So I keep myself muted and stop video until I'm on?
Yep.
Okay. Great.
Awesome.
Easy peasy. Thanks.
Bye.
Hey, Ron, can you hear me okay? This is Shelley. Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, I can hear you great. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
And Shelley, just to confirm, you're willing to take the lead on 7.3?
Yes, I
Okay,
would.
great, great.
Hopefully I can summarize it. It's a little convoluted.
No, I think you can do it. I know you can. And I'll be your lifeline if you need help. Just reach out. Just say, hey, Ron, can you chip in?
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Who have we here? We have Rochelle. We have Bruce Daniels. Just transitioning back to open session. Okay, we've got our general manager. Let's see, we've got, I think I saw Bruce and Carla. There's Bruce, the flamingos, and Carla.
Carla's here.
There she is. Okie doke. All right. Well, we are all back. Roll call has already been taken. So all directors are here. And so we are ready to move forward with the, we came out of closed session with no reportable action. There is no public hearing tonight. So is anyone, item 3, have anyone have any items that they would like removed from the consent agenda?
None from me.
Carla, you're muted.
I don't have any items.
Okay, and Bruce Jaffe.
No items.
Okay, all right, then we will move forward with the consent agenda. I think there is a public comment on the consent agenda in general. Is that correct?
Yes, we have one.
All right, let's proceed with that.
Ms. Steinbruner?
Good evening. This is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm a little surprised that no one felt it was important to remove items 4.6 and 4.7 from the consent agenda. They both involve resolutions, multiple resolutions for 4.7, and both involve large dollar amounts. So it seems rather odd to me that for transparency, you would not want to publicly discuss them. But given that this is my only time to speak about them, I have a question about the on item 4.7, the well depths for TLM 1A and 2A, and especially TLM 1A. I note that that is in the area of the Twin Lakes injection well. And I want to know if you are also monitoring things that could be closer to the private water companies that are nearby there. How will you work with them to make sure that their water is safe? How will you notify them if you detect contaminants, possibly NDMA from the Twin Lakes injection well or other things that get in and are not retrievable from the Pure Water Soquel project? I just feel that this should be publicly discussed in item 4.6. I think that there should be better disclosure about where you are in terms of public funding and the true costs of the Pure Water Soquel project as they are right now. You've had to add a lot of modifications that no doubt will increase costs, and the operational costs will also be much higher.
Thank you, Ms. Steinbruner. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other any motions or comments on the consent agenda?
Shall I move to approve the items on the consent agenda?
Okay,
And it looks like Bruce has something to say.
Yeah,
Here we go.
he might have something to say.
there's his hand. I see him now.
I wanted to respond to the public comment. If you go out to the site where this well being discussed is, and you look northward, you'll see it goes uphill, uphill, uphill. And water doesn't tend to flow uphill too much. It tends to flow downhill. So that's the reason we don't really need monitoring wells up that hill where these other water agencies being discussed exist. So that's the reason there are no monitoring wells there. They need to be down gradient, and that's where they're being placed.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, Bruce. Let's see, Carla made a motion.
I seconded. I get to second.
Hey, Rochelle seconded that. And then, so roll call, please.
Director Daniels,
Yes.
Vice President LaHue,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Lather.
Yes.
Okay. We will move on to oral and written communications. So is there anyone that wishes to speak on that?
We have one public comment on this.
Okay.
Ms. Steinbruner?
Hello, this is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that the private wells I was talking about in my previous comment are downstream of the monitoring wells. They are downstream of the Twin Lakes injection, and I'm talking about those in the two mutual water companies. I'm not talking about the Cabrillo wells that are uphill. So I just need to clarify that. I would like to say that I have noted the large volume of communication that your district has received from people who are struggling to pay their bills and are begging you not to raise their rates. What they don't seem to understand is that you will, for the next 2 years, raise their rates. And that harkens to the problem that happened in 2019 when you approved the 5-year annual rate increase system to pay for the Pure Water Soquel project. People didn't know. People didn't understand that that's what was coming their way. Now they are, because your rates are extremely high. And as I read all of these comments, people are really having a hard time paying their bills. And their rates are going to go up again and again, and you're already making plans to raise the rates again. So I hope that you take that to heart and really look at how you can help your customers have affordable water, because you don't have that right now. I saw the graph that you again put up showing the small water companies, Trout Gulch Mutual and Pure Source Water, comparing them to your rates, and that's not fair. Pure Source Water is a flat rate. It's a small company, and you can't compare apples and oranges and make yourself look better. And that's what you're trying to do, and I really am disappointed to see that that's continuing. I also want to urge you to again reach out to the people in the Monterey well injection well construction area. There's no sound wall for those poor people in the apartments. It looks like there is from the street. You can't really see it, but they're the subject of like a reflector of all of the sound. The Costa family, I did stop in and talk with them. They live right next to it. No one reached out to them. No one did. No one reached out from the district to the people. The district only went to the project construction supervisor and asked if anybody had complained to him. No, they hadn't. So I really want to make it clear that the board's direction to staff to reach out to the Monterey Avenue people did not happen. It did not happen. And it needs to, because they are very frustrated. They had been told they would have to go to a hotel.
Okay. Thank you. And, you know, the person operating the timer and working with the public to let them speak, I heard that it's her birthday. So happy birthday, Becca. Anyway, side note, but any oral communications from directors? Let's see, we have Bruce Daniels.
I think it's ironic that the speaker herself has caused a significant cost to the district, which means a significant cost to our ratepayers. And that's with the stuff she's done in the past. And she's currently has three court actions against the district, which will cause even yet more increase of costs. So I think it's ironic to complain about what the district may or may not be doing. And when the speaker is themselves doing that to the ratepayers, it's a shame.
Bruce Jaffe, you had your hand up?
Yes. Now I'll put it down.
Oh.
But I have something to say.
Okay.
I was just, this won't show because I've got a background, but the San Francisco Chronicle on Thursday, March 25th, had an article about the State Water Board telling users to prepare for cuts. And it ends, the last sentence is, the US Drought Monitor meanwhile estimates that 90% of California is in at least a minor state of drought. So it's not looking good. And of course, locally, we know that the rainfall is significantly below average. So just thought I'd bring that to the attention of the other directors about what's going on in the state. Probably they already know. But the other thing is, I had the misfortune of being on 12 hours of Zoom calls in, I think it was last week, and for a specific purpose. And one of the things they did there was they took a break every hour, just a 5-minute break, just for people to refresh. And I'd like to see something like that happen with our meetings, because, you know, tonight's meeting with the closed session, we're talking, well, it could easily go on a couple hours. And we had one, I think the last time there was a few hours, and I think it'd be good just to have a break every once in a while so we can just stretch and refresh.
Good suggestion. Anyone else? No? Okay, maybe if we are still going at 8 o'clock, we'll take a couple minute break. Yeah. All right, so no reports tonight. So we'll move on to administrative items. There are no conditional will serves or unconditional will serve. So we go to item 7.2, which is the Consumer Confidence and Water Quality Report. And so staff will present and then we'll have public comment.
Yeah, so this is Christine Mead, and Greg Wilson, our Water Quality Program Coordinator, will present this item.
Hi, thank you. I'm Greg, the Water Quality Program Coordinator. The CCR report for this year, the guidance from the Division of Drinking Water was the same, so it's going to have the same format as last year and pretty much look the same with the informational sections and definitions. There was some additional sampling that happened in 2020 that did not happen the year before. We did at all of the production wells SOCs, that's the synthetic organics, so herbicides like cymazine, atrazine, diquat, and 2,4-D that all came in under the detection limit for purposes of reporting the DLR. Did the VOCs, the volatile organics, things like benzene, also everything was under the DLR there. And we did perchlorate as a propellant in missiles and fireworks, and it was under the DLR. In that same vein, that won't show up in the water quality table are the bacteriological results. I got to be part of the Soquel main replacement project last week and got to see some of the things that go into maintaining sanitary conditions there. Everything from the engineering design, maintaining setbacks from the sewer mains, to the inspector ensuring that work is done according to spec, to the sampling that happened at the end. There was 24 BACT samples for less than a mile of pipe. So that shows up in the box score here, but that's that work is how you aim. Comparing this year's to last year's in the table itself on page 6. Let you catch up there, Becca. There we go, perfect, up a tad. The disinfection byproduct results are pretty similar to last year. So we'll try halomethanes there. MCL is at 80, and the max result was at 77. On the chlorine residual, that 0.72, that's actually the exact same average after about 1,000 samples as last year. So I do get a fair number of calls, asking, is the chlorine higher? It changed. In the time I've been here, I have to say that the chlorine residuals were really pretty stable. So a lot of work goes into babysitting those hypochlorinators too, making sure they aren't gassing up and topping off the tanks, cleaning the injectors. Down to the inorganic section there, arsenic dropped off as we were below the DLR last year. And in the secondary section, we've added manganese. The max result at 27. So we had a temporary issue at the Garnet water treatment plant where we lost some filter media. We replaced that with new media, and the iron and manganese results that had been a little higher dropped back down to baseline, and actually able to get a little bit more out of that plant. So that's pretty much it on CCR. Thanks.
Okay, do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, we have one.
Okay,
But she is.
go ahead, Becky.
I'm not seeing her under attendees right now.
Ah. Okay, and there's no one else, so we'll move forward with board questions then. Let's see, I never can keep track of the order, but I think Bruce Daniels, do you have anything?
Yes, for the trihalomethane and acetoacetic acids, those are very high compared to the MCL. And I'm wondering, were those part of the transfer that we've done, or were they just out in our system somewhere?
Those are compliance samples, and the high results are during the transfer period, yes.
Okay, so if we ever decide, if there's ever enough water in the river to supply us again, that's something we're going to have to work on and worry about, because that's very close to going over the edge, and that concerns me.
Right, and that was in a month of transfer. So if there was a full season of transfer, I agree with you. We would have to be conscientious of that.
And down at the bottom, I see Led be mentioned how many schools we did, but there's been no discussion or the next page about what we found. I mean, it just says we tested, but it doesn't say that, that we found anything or everything was fine or
I thought it
what.
said 0 out of 36 on the table.
Led?
Are you, he's talking about the school sampling,
Oh,
right?
the school
Yes.
thing. Oh, got it.
Good point, Director Daniels. Yeah, I don't
I
know
think
if
it'd
we
be
could.
nice to say that what the results were,
Mhm.
because a lot of people naturally are concerned about, school kids. So
Right. I'll make a note of that.
thank you.
Good point. All right, so I'm not sure of the order, but why don't we go with Bruce Chaffee next?
I did not have any comments.
Okay, Carla?
Dr. Daniels addressed the comments I had, that the haloacidic acid, the trihalomethanes and so on, those have been a continuing concern over the years. It started once we started with the transfers, and it really is a meshing of two different kinds of water systems. One of them has to disinfect more than the other. So it is a problem.
And Rochelle?
I have no comments.
Okay. I don't have any specifics either. And thanks, Bruce, for bringing up the school-led info. I think we're just directing staff on this one. If we need any changes, so we've given that direction. So I think that's all.
Did we have public comment on this one?
We offered it, but there was no one there.
Okay.
So we will go to item 7.3. So this is for this whole idea of the rebate for taking landscape irrigation meters out of service. Staff presentation and then public comment on that.
Sure, I'll be taking this item. This is Shelley. I'm the conservation manager, and I worked on this with Ron, our general manager. And really, this was in response to an item that was presented at the February 2nd board meeting, where a customer who is an account holder in two separate homeowners associations had requested the board consider modifying our existing policies and procedures that don't allow for the suspension of monthly service charges on services that aren't in use, no water's being used. And also he asked for the district policy where we require customers to pay for service abandonment, and the request there was that the district bear those costs. And during that board meeting, the board basically decided not to modify our policies due to legality considerations with Proposition 218 and rate development. And also that, the district can't subsidize the removal of services for one customer that wouldn't be fair to all of our other customers. So recognizing though that not irrigating landscapes is a water saving option, and we are in a critically overdrafted basin, the board asked staff to go back and take a look at rebating or incentivizing the removal of dedicated irrigation meters. And so that's how this whole item kind of started, was an evaluation of that. But very early on in the process, we recognized that allowing customers of non-single family development projects like multifamily, commercial, and public really conflicted with local regulations in the planning departments, as well as the district and statewide landscape ordinances and for new development. And so we basically found, there's a fatal flaw or a conflict there with even allowing for the removal of these services. And so we basically kind of halted our evaluation of rebate feasibility at this time. And this memo kind of details what those conflicts are, both at the local planning level and as well as the district's landscape ordinance and the state's model water efficient landscape ordinance. So with that, Becca, if you could scroll down just a little bit more to, yeah, the next page, one more page. Kind of in summary, we did find though that there are some options that, you know, one of the options we could consider doesn't require any change to district policy, and that is the customer, if their HOA granted consent, they could consider downsizing their irrigation meter from a 5/8 inch meter to a 5/8 inch restricted meter. That would save them about $25, $26 per month under our current rate structure. We would need to, again, get their consent, and then we would need to also take a look at their irrigation and make sure that adequate flow and capacity could be provided. But that's, you know, one option that could be done now without any board motions. The second option would be for the board, if you were interested, to direct staff to explore lessening our landscape requirements for new development, and that would really remove the conflict for existing non-single family developments to be able to remove their meters if they, you know, fell within, or their landscape sizes fell under whatever threshold you deemed, you know, didn't require these meters. So that is an option. We don't really recommend doing that right now, because the reason why we made those requirements stricter than the state's landscape requirements was in light of the fact that we do have an overdrafted basin and seawater intrusion. So in conclusion, really our motions there for you to pick from are to come back now with some recommendations for modifying the ordinance, or to wait basically until we do have Pure Water Soquel online and you know, we're out of a critical overdraft situation, and that would free up, you know, lessening up some landscape requirements on that end. Could you scroll down just a tiny bit more? One thing that we really didn't kind of capture in this is if we come back at a later date, it should not only be when Pure Water Soquel is operational and we no longer have a stage 3 shortage, but we should also kind of combine that with a rate study. That's another issue with even allowing people to remove landscape meters at this time. If enough people did that, that would impact the way that the rates were developed for that class of customers, those dedicated irrigation customers. And that could impact, you know, it could be an illegality issue with Proposition 218. So that's kind of another thing to consider for option 2 is also doing that in conjunction with, you know, the next rate study after Pure Water Soquel comes online. So I hope I kind of captured that. It took a lot of twists and turns through this evaluation, and it's a little kind of complicated to wrap. It was complicated for me to wrap my head around it a little bit. So I hope I explained that well, and be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thanks, Shelley. Do we have any public comment on this item?
We have one.
Okay, let's do that next.
Mr.
I do
Meyer,
too. Yeah.
you're unmuted.
Is that for me? For me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. This is Dave Byron here. You guys you can hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Look, I appreciate the board looking into this matter. It's obviously more complex than than I'm able to even wrap my head around. Even the last speaker there saw it as a complex issue. And I want to be clear that we weren't really looking to remove the meters. And I understand that, you know, I'm getting a little clear understanding of what the board's position is and how you see the meters. And I thought maybe what I might just try to present to you was a perspective of people that do not, like myself, that don't really, I mean, I actually understand water issues here more than a lot of people do, but I think the comparison of something that I thought about was trying to think about that service is like when landlines sort of became obsolete and everybody got rid of their landlines and started using cell phones. To me, the way that it feels is it would be like the phone companies coming up and saying, well, you know, we put those landlines in there, or you wanted that landline, and so therefore you're going to have to continue to pay for that landline, even though we don't want the service. So again, I'm not advocating that we get rid of the meters. I'm advocating that I do believe there's a way to do a rate structure that benefits the community by us saving water and you giving us some sort of a discount. And that was the proposal that I had put, very simple proposals as a starting point that I put in my letter that I did send to the district. That's all.
Thank you. Okay. And so I will bring it back to the board for any questions. So Bruce Daniels?
The second motion there, which talks about after the PWS, the Pure Water Soquel, is operational, we have to recognize that, you know, when it first turns on, we suddenly won't have a sustainable water supply. It's liable to take years to reach that level of the aquifer going up so it's sustainable. So that's the point, is that we can't wait, we can't do those kind of things until I think we receive sustainability, and that's going to be years after it's operational.
And then Bruce Jaffe?
Yeah, I want to thank David for clarifying what he's asking for. And I think the appropriate place to deal with this is when we set the rates for the next go round, and, you know, invite David to participate as much as he would like to in that process. And certainly at very least as those rates are being set to make sure that his concerns are heard. But I think that the option that Shelley pointed out with the decrease in meter size, if you really don't need that flow, it could be something that could immediately save money for people in situations like David is in.
Okay, thanks, Bruce. Carla, and then Rochelle.
Yeah, I was glad to hear of Mr. Byron's comments too, because I think with those, we're on the same page that the best time to deal with this is during a rate study, because I think there is some room for working, the landscaping, all the different conflicting county and state requirements, and then the local ones coming into play, and then our own districts, that probably needs to be examined in general. And the best time to do that is not now, when we're trying to get this Pure Water Soquel project through on the ground and working. And that especially I feel, just having read the whole document, that we cannot do anything until we've done a rate study to make sure that we don't get into 218 trouble.
Okay, Rochelle?
Yeah, my understanding is that we had set up the rates so that they would coincide with the end of the Pure Water Soquel project, because we weren't sure about what funding we were going to get. We weren't sure how the funding would affect our cash flow, and we wanted to make sure that we had rates that would take care of that until that point. So even though it says, Pure Water Soquel has done. You're right.
Oh,
And we already planned to do that at the end of the Pure Water Soquel. So I think we don't really need to make any action.
okay.
I'd like to add one further thing. Thank you, Shelley, for organizing
Yeah.
this item and clarifying the issues for us, because I think it's a good start for addressing it later on during the rate study. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So between the rate study and when we're actually sustainable, we can discuss that during the rate study, but I think still implementation of anything that could potentially increase water use without us being able to meter it, will have to be addressed. Bruce Daniels, you have another comment?
I'd like to make a motion that we take option 3 and take no action.
I don't think we need a motion for that.
I want to let you know that I'm starting to feel really sick, so I think I'm going to leave the meeting.
Okay.
No offense to any.
We got that. You take care of yourself.
Yeah, get
have been
better.
kind of-
Are feeling
Yeah.
better, yeah. Take care.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Tom, for being
Yeah.
in charge.
No problem. It looks like we can move on to the last item, which is item 7.4. And let's see, as far as presentation of this item, let's see.
Josh is labeled.
Yeah, I could provide a quick introduction. Director LaHue, that'd be helpful.
Thank you.
So the board just in closed session completed the general manager's annual performance evaluation process. As part of that process, it's an opportunity for the board to consider an adjustment in the general manager's compensation. But under the Brown Act, any decision on an adjustment must be made in open session. So the item before you is an opportunity, if the board wishes, to make an adjustment in the general manager's compensation.
Okay.
Happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item?
We had one, but Ms. Steinbruner is no longer in the meeting.
Okay. Okay, so then we can move to our directors for comment. We'll start again with Bruce Daniels.
Well, I think he's clearly done an excellent job. I mean, a lot of work with the staff, and the staff has been amazing, and the managers and so forth. It's been a really great thing. But I think one of the key things to do to make an impressive result is to create a vision for why you're doing it, why it's important. And I think that's happened. And it's been not just the staff and the managers, but also out into the public. And I think that's the biggest accomplishment, is that now, almost everyone sees how critically important this is to this district and even to the entire basin that we're in. So that's been a great accomplishment.
Okay, Bruce Jaffe.
I'm back. I just wanted to echo what Bruce Daniels said. Very, very happy with the performance of Ron, and I think his leadership has served us well in these very jam-packed, important times on setting the direction for sustainability for water for the district. So I'm very supportive of acknowledging that in terms of a increase in compensation.
Okay, Carla.
Well, I can only agree with everyone who spoke. Got my waiter say that librarian left, but the waiter's back. Yeah, no, I strongly support, compensating and recognizing the general manager and his team, who have just acted in sync to get all this work done. It's just been really a great feat, and it looks, hopefully we can just keep on going to the completion of it. Thank you so much.
So we did discuss, Ron, I think, has shown a ton of integrity throughout these 6 years he's been general manager and before that. And I really appreciate that. I feel like we can all trust him to know he's always doing his best, and he's always trying to do his best, not just for himself, but for the district and for the people he works with. And he truly cares about the other managers that he works with, because he recognizes that this is not something he does on his own. I mean, he has his role, but he recognizes that the managers are working their butts off and really have their heart in this and really trying to make it work. And so he suggested, and we all agree, that at some point soon we want to look into ways to compensate the key managers that have been part of this whole Pure Water Soquel effort, which is just huge for a district of our size. And it's so important to all of us. But, the team, keeping the team together is really important. And so we're gonna make a motion for a salary increase, but just want to also know that we also include in the motion that we're going to look at a way to help recognize the efforts of the other key managers for this project. So anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move. It's a motion to assign we talked about an 8% increase in
8.8.
8.8.
I mean 8.8. Thank you so much for correcting that. And we also included within that recognizing the moving up forward to recognize the team members, the senior managers that we've been talking about. And I think that's all that needs to be included in this motion. It looks like.
So you're directing staff to look into possibilities.
Thank you.
On ways to compensate the key managers for their extraordinary efforts.
Yes.
Did you second, Bruce? Or?
I did.
Okay.
Directors, I apologize. Before you move forward on the motion, I'd recommend clarifying when the increase would be effective. And I believe we had discussed January 1st.
Correct.
Good. So
thank you.
It's retroactive.
I approve that.
2021, just to be clear. Okay. All right. So 8.8% increase, and bringing back for us to discuss the other managers and way to appreciate.
Yeah, I like to point out that Ron has not gotten a pay increase since 2018. So
yeah, and only one in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And he's below the average of other similar managers in the general area.
Right.
So
good
it's
point. Partly
to bring him back up to above average.
I think he's now at average. I think,
No, he's below.
He's below.
No, now he will be.
Yes.
He'll be at the average. So that's
well, anyway,
not extravagant. It's not extravagant in the slightest.
No, and we're moving forward. So let's keep going, team. And with that in mind, how about a roll call vote?
Roll call. Director Daniels.
Yes.
Vice President LaHue.
Yes.
Director Jaffe.
Aye.
Director Christensen.
Yes.
And President Lather is absent.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, team. It's an amazing. I will just say, I've worked for a big corporation that owns the veterinary hospital. I worked for a large school district, and by far the organization that has their act together is this one. So just really appreciated. So the next item is adjournment. So I think we can do that and see you again on April 20th.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.
Night,
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Happy birthday, Becca.
You.
Happy birthday, Becca.
Happy birthday, Becca.
Have a good night, everyone.
Go team.
Thank you.